Hello, Facebook Live family, and welcome to our Sunday talk this morning, coming to you from 50 Dudley Street in beautiful Cambridge, Massachusetts. My name is Reverend Ed Tansey, forgot my name, and I, along with Rev G. Stewart, we are the privileged and honored founders and spiritual leaders of this wonderful community. Here we learn, we study, and we practice the philosophy of the science of mind, and that was founded by Reverend Dr. Ernest Holmes. Now, the science of mind is the study of life and the nature of the laws of thought. So here, what do? We learn about oneness, and what that means, and all that oneness entails. Here, all paths that lead to the God of one's understanding is honored and appreciated. We honor also each person's unique, individualized expression of that understanding. And what I ask you to do is to please keep in mind that there are many, many names used when referring to that energy that is greater than ourselves. I personally use the word God. And if that word doesn't resonate with you, please use a word in its place that does. Remember, its name is not important, but what is important is knowing that its presence is in, through, and as everything that exists in this vibration called life that we see and that we don't see. And what we also do at this center is that we teach classes. And if you would like more information about our classes, I invite you to go to our website, cslboston.org. And also you can there find out about our community's vision and mission here in Cambridge. So, please consider supporting our community's purpose, a world that works for everyone and for all of creation, by sharing your abundance with us by giving a tax-deductible gift to our center. And what you can do is hit that donate button on the website. So myself, Rev G, and our community thank you in advance for your support. And also today what we're doing is we are installing our new Leadership Council members and reinstalling the ones that have been on there for a while. So I invite you to stay with the service after the talk because we will do that live also. So I'm glad you're here. So the theme for 2019, the CSL theme is spirituality in action. And the theme for September is love, ensure the stewardship of our planet. And our talk today is love in action. Love in action. Now I'll say, before any of us can be the agents of love, it's really important, it's vitally important to remember that it all begins first, and I'm going to repeat this, it all begins first from within us. We must be that love first before we can express it outwardly. Before we can express love in action, we must be it first. Now, by the way, that goes with anything that we want to experience or have as part of our life. So you see, if you want to express compassion in your life or be compassion in action, it has to begin with you first. It's just like if you want friends in your life, you have to be a friend first. if anything you want in life that you want to experience, go within and make sure you're that first, because that's how you can express it to others and also receive it. Does that make sense? Okay, now, love, 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 love. That's talked about. That is studied more and more in this lifetime as we know it. So I feel at this point that most of us really know what's up concerning love. So I'd like to point out and share with you this morning 4 suggestions or 4 actions that I feel would benefit each of us to take that would be what we could individually do. Do to help us to activate outwardly love in action. Now, how does that sound? Are you up to hearing that? Are you on board with hearing that? Okay,
Yes.
good, thank you. Now, suggestions 1 and 2 came from that little book that so many of us use here called Creative Mind by Ernest Holmes. That's one of our morning practices that we read. We open it up to a page and it seems, man, that's right on for us today. So the first one, suggestion 1, it stated that we must get the perfect vision, the perfect conception. We must enlarge our thought until it realizes all good. And then we swing right out and use this almighty power for a definite purpose or definite purposes. And they suggest that we should daily feel a deeper union with life, having a greater sense and appreciation of that indwelling God, a greater sense of that indwelling universal energy, the God, the universal energy of the everywhere that is within us. Suggestion 2, learn how to appreciate nature and nature's God. And how do you do that? Spend time. Spend time in the outdoors, looking at nature, the beauty of nature, appreciating all that is out there that we can take in by our eyes, that we can appreciate. I say, look up at the stars. How many of you like looking up at the stars? I know I do. Let them be your companions. Let them be your companions. Another thing I say is, go and have a relationship with the trees, the forests that are so beautiful. To see the universal presence in anything that you look upon. The God of everywhere. I know that Rev G and I spent the last, 14 days on the West Coast. You want to talk about beauty, a different kind of beauty, like the palm trees we don't have here. But seeing them just warmed my heart. Like when I even come to living on the East Coast, the beauty of that. There is so much beauty around us. And when we can connect with that beauty, I just think it makes for wonderful things to come from us, that others can appreciate, that others can enjoy. So now the third suggestion, and I quote this from Sandra Ingerman. She says, this is a good one, that we must shift our energy. You students are going to remember this. From our heads to where? To our hearts, where we can listen to the wisdom, where we can call in and surrender to that power of spirit, the divine source, God, the goddess, to open the doorway for true healing to occur. Now, many of us say that one of the longest journeys is from the head to the heart. And I can remember when I was more heady and less hearty. No, I don't mean hearty, I mean hearty. Okay? And boy, when I came from that consciousness, when I could transfer from the intellect to the heart, it just opened up great doors for me. We must surrender to the power of love. We must surrender to that, because not only do we benefit personally, but all of humanity benefits because we're radiating that from us. Now, I want to just point this out to you. When you hear me say healing, all that is revealing the truth with a capital T that already exists, bringing it from our consciousness into form. Because we are whole, perfect, complete as we are. And when we heal, it's us living and appreciating and realizing and coming from the consciousness of the capital T truth, which is never changing, which is always the same. We can count on that. We can count on that just as we can count on paying our taxes, or we can count on having things to do in a day. It's very important with that to remember that. So I invite you, if you're more of a heady person than a heart person, try that. Try to bring it down into the heart. And then let me know what you feel about that and what happens when that does occur for you. Now, suggestion 4, I quote this from Eleanor O'Hannon. She says that sacredness, that sacredness is inherent in the very essence of life and the multiple patterns of its arising. Sacredness, as she puts it, is the radiant expansion of the heart. The devotion to life that rises in the contemplation of the inexhaustible mystery that is unity in divinity, in diversity. The one manifesting through the whole of creation. Now, by utilizing and acting upon the suggestions that I've mentioned, I really believe, from my experience and my journey, that it will definitely help one to cultivate, will definitely help one to be and reveal the love within, so that one can then outwardly express love in action. Okay? Now, here are 2 brief stories that I found on Facebook that really shows love in action. And I'm sure many of you will remember these stories if you're ever on Facebook. One was that blessed policeman, while he was on duty, who took off his shoes and gave them to a homeless man. Do you remember that? Does anyone remember reading about that? Right? Yeah. That was love in action. Would you agree?
Yes.
Totally. Now, so that's a human having love in action. But you know, I love animals and I love pets. So there was a mother horse who gave birth and she lost her baby. Now, 2 hours after that, another horse gave birth and the mother died in the birthing process. So the baby that lost its mother was taken to the horse that lost its baby. Okay? And that horse took in this baby as it was her own. As it was her own. So, to me, this was really like such a beautiful example of the universe fulfilling the need of that maternal kind of instinct of the living mother horse. Wasn't that love in action?
Yes.
I thought it was.
Yes.
It was pretty. It was a nice picture too. I remember that. Now, I'm going to tell you my personal story that I think was love in action, and you could let me know if you feel that or not. Okay. I remember when I was in about like the 5th or the 6th grade, I had this desire to visit kids in a hospital during a couple of the holidays. And I was like 5th or 6th grade. And I remember asking my mother, "Ma, how could I do that? I want to visit some kids who, they're not as, imagine, I was young then. Something was going on good up there. That, you know, they didn't have it as nice as I. I was healthy. I was out there having a good time playing with my friends. So however she did it, she got in touch with the Children's Hospital in Rhode Island, and she got permission. So what I did was, I remember this for Easter and for Christmas, because I was brought up in that faith, and we celebrated those, but many faiths celebrate all of that too. I remember that I made them little gifts, and I would go there on a specific date and time, and they let me visit these kids and I gave them a little token, you know, and I was able to sit with each kid. I will never forget that. I did that for a couple of years. I would visit the wing of the kids' hospital. And my God, it was, to me, I was really expressing love to these kids who I really didn't know. So when we do express love, people, what I'm trying to say is the size of the action, it really doesn't matter. A small little thing or a large thing. Here is where size really does not matter. Any outward action that produces a loving action or a loving feeling for people who are involved in that. It could be an action such as, even, think about this, listening to someone. Sometimes we don't realize something as small as that. Or sharing one's time with someone. Helping someone. Smiling at someone. Come on, this is love in action. Giving of oneself. Of oneself in relation to their time with others. Noticing others. Or being in the conscious awareness. Here's the thing. Of what or where we can bring that love into action. So that was my little story. And I will say to you at this point, namaste. I'm done. Rev G.
I think one other thing I'm going to add to that.
Oh, go ahead.
Because we've been away for a while and our babies have been being cared for. I'll tell you what, you walk in that door and the joy of those dogs at seeing us is amazing.
Yes.
And it's just so powerful. That's love in action.
Yes, it is.
It makes you feel good, right? It moves you into a greater sense of being. So that I just wanted to share that because it struck me last night as we came home, the joy that they had. I mean, they were just like, it was like, I should get that excited about life, right?
Well,
all the time.
Well, we did. We were just like the dogs in a way. How excited we were to see them.
That's
right?
true.
I mean, come on.
That's true.
Yes.
We were carrying on just like they were.
Reflections of each other. That's right.
I can't even imagine that.
Can't imagine that at all.
No.
We miss them so much. So. And as Rev Ed shared, we are going to be having our ceremony later after we finish our talks. And that is love in action too. People who have chosen to step into the business of the center are people who have chosen love in action in business, in the business of the community. And it's spiritual business, but it's work that we're doing to keep us where we are and what we're doing and to bring us into the world. So I just wanted to share that again is that love in action. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to cover two things as we move into the theme for September, and to offer an opportunity to look within for how we can be love in action. Because that's the question to ask, right? How can I be love in action in the world? So that's the second part that I want to get to. The first thing I want to do is to mention that the theme of the month again comes from Reverend Dr. James A. Forbes Jr. of Riverside Church in New York. and I believe he's emeritus now, so I don't even think he's even at the community anymore. But he created the prophetic justice principles, which we are using as we go through the theme. And his prophetic justice principle for this month that we're using is ensure stewardship of creation. Is the policy supportive of strong measures to ensure ecological responsibility and sustainability? Those are powerful realizations, especially in our world today, where there is an appearance of something that's going on that we are not showing stewardship of our planet in our larger organizations in the world. So this is a time when we can really work at this. So it's really important that we look at the policies that our leaders are bringing so that we can really see what it is. Does this fit within that idea of stewardship of our planet? And if not, then I need to do my spiritual work, and I need to go where I am called in the world to create differences. And there are lots of organizations out there that are creating differences. And there's some powerful stuff going on in the world. So look for what calls to you and get involved in that. If it is to change the people who are in power, then get involved in that. Whatever it is that we need to do, this is what we are doing in our world. And that is love in action. As long as we're coming from love first. Not out of anger, not out of limitation. Not out of buying into the limited ideas that are out there. So it's important that we do our inner work. Would you agree?
Yes.
Yes.
Always,
Yes.
always. That's what we learn here. And that's the beauty of it. So that's what I love about this place. About having this place to come to remember who I am and why I'm here. When we were at Asilomar, I loved what Reverend Dr. Ken Gordon said, and our people who were at Asilomar will remember this, I'm sure, that he stood up there and he said he remembered his first time at Asilomar and how, you know, it was coming to the end of it, and he said, now I got to go back to reality, and somebody reminded him, that's not reality that you're going back to. What you experienced here, what we experienced there was love in action. I get God bumps just thinking of it. I mean, we're talking 500 people in a room singing these songs, really believing what they're hearing, and people telling you that you're beautiful and you're perfect and you're whole and you're complete, and that there is no limitation for you. Hearing that, that's reality. And they said, so don't think about that you're going back to reality. You're going back to the appearance. Bring the reality with you. Bring the real thing with you. That's what we do here on Sunday. Every Sunday, we bring the reality back so that we can carry ourselves through the week.
Yep.
Would you agree?
Yes.
Definitely.
Yes.
That's why I come here. I receive it from you and you receive it from me, and that's the beauty of it. It's that reciprocal nature of the universe bringing it back. So it's a very powerful thing. So I just want to share a quote from the book of the month that we're using this month, which is about, spiritual ecology, the cry of the earth. We need to reawaken to the power of love in the world. Would you agree?
Yes.
Constantly. It is our love for the earth that will heal what we have desecrated, that will guide us through this wasteland and help us bring light back into our darkening world. Love links us all together in the most mysterious ways, and love can guide our hearts and hands. And the central note of love is oneness. Love speaks the language of oneness, of unity, rather than separation.
Yep.
So where do we need to be in our world today? Love. Because that's what's needed. Everything we hear in the world that is outside of love is a call for love. Would you agree?
Yes.
It is a world calling for love because people are not feeling loved in the world. So we need to be that love in whatever way we can. It doesn't mean that we become a doormat. It means that we stand in love and know that love can transcend and transform everything.
Yep.
So this quote speaks to all that we can see in the world today, and it speaks on the topic of love in action. It speaks in the, we need to awaken to love in the world. Would you agree?
Yes.
We need to love our planet, and this love will bring healing or revealing of the appearance of brokenness. Right?
Yes.
Because this love will let us see greater things than what may be appearing right before us. And that's what we do here, right? We
Yep.
use our consciousness to shift what is appearing in the world so that we can experience greater things.
Yes.
And we can help others to do the same thing. Because when someone comes to me with an idea or a belief, I say, yes, I believe that's a good thing for you. And that's what we do for each other. We remind each other. So love does bring us together in oneness and unity. Would you agree?
Yep.
Yes.
And it is the oneness and the unity that can make a difference in the world. That's why when you choose to step into the world of effect, do your work. Do your work first. Am I in a loving space? Am I in a consciousness of oneness? Question all of those things before we move into the world. And then we are making a difference. Just with your very presence. You may not have to say one word. Have you ever felt that you stepped somewhere and just your presence has caused a difference in the world? Yes.
Yes.
I'm sure we all have at some point in our life. So now I offer to you an opportunity to open to Spirit's guidance with this quote, and this quote comes from Joanne Macy. And we're going to do this, what I want to do is I want to do this as an experiential for us here today. So what's going to happen is we're going to read this together, and then I'm going to ask you to close your eyes, and I will read it again slowly as you close your eyes. And I want you to open yourself up to all of the possibilities of Spirit in this question. Okay? So let's read it together. If I could access all the power that there is for me coming through the web of life, the one thing I would do for the sake of my world is... Okay, now close your eyes. And I'm going to read it again to you slowly. Just take that in. Open to the possibilities. If I could access all the power that there is for me coming through the web of life, the one thing that I would do for the sake of my world is... Now let's take a deep breath together. And exhale. And when you're ready, you can gently open your eyes. And what I'm going to ask you to do is to find someone to share what came to you with. So just for a few moments, find someone near you that you can share what came to you. Just briefly, okay?
What seems to be to show people how to become positive in life. I try to be positive.
What came to me is just love and action, which is good.
How did it feel to share?
Did everybody share?
Did everybody get an opportunity? So how does it feel to share that vision too? Does it feel like you cemented it a little bit?
Makes it real. Yeah.
It became a little more real, didn't it, when you shared it with someone? That's the power of this, right? That's why we come together in community,
Yeah.
right? We come together in community. You know, I mean, I think sometimes our online reality has become more powerful than the fact that when we're together, we make a difference. So it's really important. Community is a powerful thing. So my call to action for you this morning is to take what you have seen or what you have been called to do through this process and bring it into love in action, in co-creating a world that works for everyone and all of creation, which is who we are at Center for Spiritual Living Greater Boston. Namaste. And so now we move into our leadership
Yes. You want to do that?
installation ceremony. Oh, we should do the
And
affirmation.
how
Shall we do
is-
the
and
affirmation before we do
spiritual
that?
mind treatment, right?
Well, we do spiritual mind treatment.
All right, go ahead.
So let's go ahead and do the affirmation.
All right.
All right. Next one. Thank you.
Uh-huh.
Let's read this together.
And who was it by?
This is by Reverend Tony Niemiec. Okay, let's read this together. I open to greater awareness of the wholeness, the interdependence of all life, and in so doing, become an integral part of the healing, the revelation of a world that works for everyone. Want to do it again?
Yes.
Yes. I open to greater awareness of the wholeness, the interdependence of all life, and in so doing, become an integral part of the healing, the revelation of a world that works for everyone. And so it is. So it is. Absolutely.
Right. Uh-huh. Okay. So as we have both said this morning, Rev G and myself are privileged and honored to be installing and reinstalling members of our leadership council here at the center. And before we begin, I just want to say that this group of individuals do so much work that is not seen in the hours that are spent, and I mean hours that are spent at our monthly meetings and through the month in relation to the business aspect that keeps CSLGB completely sustained, you know, that it can sustain itself and all that things that go on here. We both are so grateful and are so appreciative of their love and dedication to this philosophy, this center, and to the spiritual family here. So I had to say that. So at this point, I'm going to ask, will the appointed leadership council members who are here please stand? Okay. Very good. I'd like you to state your name and then state your position on the council.
Nan Hutton, President of the Leadership Council.
Karen Reich, Secretary of the Leadership Council.
Chris Wright, Technology and Facilities Coordinator.
Thank you. All right, now,
And I would also like to mention that
oh,
Barbara Epstein,
Yes.
who's not with us today, that she is the practitioner and vision coordinator on
Right.
the council.
Thank you, yes. So, likewise, standing with us and for us, these people represent another aspect of the triune nature of God. And here is the following. We are a business entity, and the council represents God as body or form, or the consciousness of administrative, fiscal, and legal stewardship and leadership. We are a spiritual healing center, and the practitioner represents God as mind or consciousness of truth and healing leadership. And the third, we are a center for spiritual living, and the spiritual leaders represent God as spirit or the consciousness of ministry and spiritual leadership.
So today, you offer your light to our community. You have been asked to serve on the Leadership Council of the Center for Spiritual Living Greater Boston because we believe you to be the center's worthy representatives. We believe you to possess the qualities of leadership which will embrace and carry out our purpose in the world. Serving on the council is both an honor and a privilege, and with this comes personal and organizational responsibilities. In accepting this position on the council, you are making a commitment both to serve and to lead our community according to our purpose, bylaws, shared values, guiding principles, and global vision. Do you so commit to be in that service to our community? Say, I do.
Say I do if you do.
It's like a marriage.
Me,
Oh,
well,
yeah.
I wasn't sure whether everything.
Oh yeah, the
Yes.
three of you.
And you are
Yes.
reaffirming.
So you're reaffirming, and as long as they are affirming and you're reaffirming.
I do too then.
Thank you. All right.
Every council member needs a deep commitment to their spiritual life that becomes the resource that provides them with inner nourishment and nurturing, inspiration, and divine guidance. Do you have such a deep commitment?
I do.
Nice. If a conflict arises between your position as a council member and your personal opinions and values, and or with other council members and or with members of our community, will you commit as follows? First, to spiritual mind treatment, which is our form of affirmative prayer, and or seeking spiritual counseling. Second, to speak only with the involved parties. And third, to acknowledge this conflict before the council and take positive measures based on spiritual truth. And the spiritual truth is to heal the consciousness of the conflict and to dissolve the forms of the conflict. Do you so commit?
I do.
Will you commit to support in a positive manner all forward motion and action plans initiated by the council, even when you are in a minority position on such actions?
I do.
Thank you. So now it's my honor and privilege to hand you each a red rose, symbol of love.
A symbol of beauty and
Hold on. Go ahead while I'm getting it.
and of your chosen work. And if the flowers would work, we would be fine.
That's right.
And look, we don't have an empty vase.
Thank you.
Or feng shui.
Thank you very much for all of you. Now will everyone stand? And I will say this to the spiritual family here at CSL. These members of your leadership council, they have dedicated themselves to sacred service as your representatives. Will you, the community of the Center for Spiritual Living Greater Boston, commit to support them with your spiritual mind treatment, which is our form of prayer, your loyalty, and your appreciation? And if you so choose to, please respond by saying, we do.
We
do.
Thank you. Well, everyone sit now. Everyone sit. So, with full commitment and a bond of trust established by this ceremony, you are now duly installed and duly reinstalled as members of the Leadership Council for this fabulous center that bears the name Center for Spiritual Living, Greater Boston. These three people, and along with Barbara, are your representatives on the Leadership Council. So let's give them a round of applause. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you.
like us to do, this is something I'm going to explain to you, is do a chamber of prayer. So if I can have all of you on the Leadership Council come forward and stand up here, please. And so a chamber of prayer is where we will all just pray, or if you don't feel comfortable praying out loud, you can just quietly hold consciousness as others pray around you. And basically, I like to hold up our hands, so you can either stand or sit, whatever feels comfortable for you. And we will just begin a spiritual mind treatment by stating all of the truths that the divine is, and then aligning ourselves with it. And you can just sit up there and absorb all of this loving energy that's coming to you.
And maybe if everyone could stand, if they want, if they're holding their hands, if they feel comfortable standing, that energy means going to go right to them. So
Yes.
if you feel comfortable, if you'd like to stand, everyone else, so that we can pray up these dedicated.
So just stepping into that first step,
Yes.
knowing that there is
Knowing that
only
God
one
is the
infinite,
one and
universal,
only energy that exists in
power
and as everything, knowing that God is all there is. I am one with this energy, this universal mind. I am one, inseparable from this.
I recognize
And as this is my truth, that is the truth of this fabulous leadership council. Each one is one with the one with each other, one with all of creation. And I know that Chris, Karen, Nan, and Barbara are inseparable from the Creator, from the source of all. And I speak the word for each of us, knowing that each one is lifted, guided, supported by this loving energy, that each one's energy and each one's time and dedication uplifts and supports this community that they are so dedicated to. And I am so grateful that I know this truth of each one, that I declare this truth and claim this truth, and I release this word into the world, knowing that this is done to its perfect manifestation, as perfect, whole, and complete as each one of these individuals on this leadership council. And I say, and so it is.
Let it be so. So it is. And so it is.
And we join together and say,
And
And
so
so
it
it
is.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Applause is in order.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes.
Can we turn up the?
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. So
Thank
we
you.
will bid our friends on Facebook Live
Farewell
adieu.
till next
Thank
week.
you. See you next week.